like right at the beginning, Christopher Smith runs by and it's like Robert Beal and somebody else are like high-fiving each other. Like they're like celebrating. And
Exactly,
then Christopher Smith just flies
exactly.
by him.
He's like, he's like, I'm sorry, but I'm a head out.
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 50-30 win over LSU in the SEC Championship game. As always, remember to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. So do we have to keep saying like that once again, it was just like we predicted?
Once again, just as we predicted, which frankly, I'm I'm a little uneasy about at this point. I mean, yeah, dude. Did anybody raise your who had the bingo card for 50-30?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I don't, so it is funny though. I don't even have it up, but I do remember when we were talking through all the predictions, Oddshark did have like, yeah, they predicted 44-30, 44.2 for Georgia to LSU 30.6. And I actually made that comment like, well, that's way too many points. So I don't know what they're talking about. And then there you go. So,
Well, in their defense, they probably didn't expect Georgia to have the game completely in hand basically by the second quarter.
right. That's how I feel like a day later. And, I don't know, just time to sit on it or wherever. Like in the moment, I was like, not that I was ever like worried, but it was just like things just kept happening, like we're used to, you get up, you get a lead, and you just sit on it. You just sit on that lead and you keep them at arm's length. And like the fact that they kept scoring, I'm just not used to that, which, I guess a little bit about the day, right? Like I did not go to that birthday party like we talked about. So I kind of followed our plan. Golf got canceled because of bad weather here. So we did Top Golf. We went on a distillery tour and then everyone went back to my buddy's house for to eat and watch the game. And yeah, we ended up, we didn't go over until the game was over. We started to go. We started like pack up. We were going to go over there at halftime. And then like LSU came out and marched down the field and scored that touchdown to start the second half. And we're like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. So we stayed home. So we made an appearance after the game. So, but anyway, because I don't know, the flow of the game, we haven't had a game like that in a long time. I mean, certainly not. We haven't had one like that this year. So,
What do you mean?
just
Can you elaborate a little bit more explicitly?
yeah, that we're like trading blows with an opponent, and that they keep scoring. I mean, this is the most points
Were we
we've given
though?
up. Well, after it was already out of hand, but we've still never had this back and forth scoring like that. I'm talking about the second half. We haven't had a second half like
So
that.
the second half I'll give to you, but it definitely was not that in the first half. So you could have been safe going. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. I know that was the thing. Is like yeah to go over there. Oh, we totally could have, but but basically like once they scored, I don't know. Then it was like every time
that was all you needed. That was all you needed. Sorry guys, Georgia's struggling. I gotta watch this game.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. It wasn't so much that they were struggling. I don't know, man. I'm just weird. It also like it's like we were saying, right? Like anytime they scored, it would have been like, oh, people like razzing me, and I just don't want to deal with it. Because we would have been the only Georgia fans there. So
right. I mean,
but I know
I had the same thing when we played Florida. I was like,
yeah,
I need to stay here.
right. It was exactly that. So they were still hanging out after the game. So we went over and spent time with them. So it was good. We brought a dessert over and had that. So it's Captain Christmas time around these parts, John. The Captain Christmas has come back out.
Captain Christmas again.
Yes.
We need to get a recipe for Captain Christmas.
Yes.
Maybe we could do a follow up like holiday recipes with Will Kaplan episode or something.
I like it. We might have to do that. Oh man. Yeah, we did. We basically ate bean dip. We had bean dip and corn dogs. That was our meal Saturday night during the game. And then we had the Captain Christmas for dessert. So I know you guys were partaking in the corn dogs as well. So shout out to the dog father. I had not have thought of that until he sent that in, and we discussed that in the preview. So that was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you and Carter, you guys, I saw the picture. You guys had the corn dogs too, right?
We did. My day, so you went through your day. So my day was spent at the soccer field. I was up at the werewolf hour. I was up, we were out the door by 6 o'clock. And took Carter. We did do the same routine that we did for the Tennessee game, big games. Like, okay, last time we had game day like this, we were up this early. We went to Bojangles, got a Cajun biscuit. Shout out Bojangles, not a sponsor yet. Let's see, we did that, and then Carter had soccer all day. Couple of games, and we won. He won both of them. Good stuff. And then the last game was at 2 o'clock. So the math worked out in such a way that, and I had it all planned out because I didn't get a chance to go to the grocery store because I had a heck of a week at work all week. But I was going to stop on the way home, get the corn dogs, toss them in the air fryer before we, turned on the game or whatever. Well, then Lindsay, my wife, she gave me this like list of stuff for dinner to get while I was at the store, and I was like, you're killing my timeline here. So we had to listen to the first like few series on the radio. So we were listening to Scott Howard on the radio for the first few series, and then we got to the house like as they were scoring, and I was like, oh.
So, meaning you got to the house during the Chris Smith field goal return? Is that when you got there?
Yeah, we got there, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
Got it. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get home in time for the game actually, because I think I left out after. Or maybe I can't remember if I said it or not. But because after Topgolf, we went on a tour of a distillery, and it wasn't exactly close because like a half hour away. But I made it home just in time for kickoff. But so anyway, continue.
Nice. Well, yeah. I don't know. They scored. We scored. It was a little bit of a struggle there for a minute, and then Carter and I ate the corn dogs, and it was as if the Bulldogs were eating the corn dogs as well.
Right. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a weird start. Right. I mean, it's certainly, I guess it was a tale of two halves, but like we said, I mean, we were up by so much. I think we kind of relaxed in the second half, but they get the ball. We have a great start in defense. We force a punt. But then I think we were like 3 and out really fast, like run, pass, punt, out. And then LSU has that that long drive. Right. And they look good doing so, get all the way down into the red zone, but then we stop them. And so that's where it was kind of like, all right, well, it's it's what we've been doing, right? It's like the bend but don't break. They get in the red zone, they're going to kick a field goal. And then it happened, right? Like the Christopher Smith field goal return, which was incredible.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I feel like so I would love to hear, and maybe you've, if there were any interviews with him about it. But I'm very curious to know what was going through his head at that moment, because it almost feels like the way that it looked on the screen was like, is he going to pick it up? Is he going to pick it up? I don't know. Does he know he can pick it up? I don't know. And it's almost like he was looking around. He's like, should I pick this thing up? I don't know. I feel like I need to pick this up. I'm going to pick it up.
Right.
I'm going to take it to the house. Because even Monken, and that's the thing, even some of the coaches were telling him to leave it alone.
Yeah. And Monken was screaming. I can read, I can kind of sort of read lips sometimes. He was screaming, Peter. That's like the coaching term. That's what they say when they're saying get away from the ball. And I remember that was the same term Rick used to use. They say, Peter. And that means don't touch it, get it away, leave it. Because if you block a field goal and you don't ever pick it up, if you never touch it again, the ball just comes to rest. You get the ball where they kicked it, I think. Right. So if you, the fear is if you pick it up, it's a live ball at that point. So you could you hurt your field position first and foremost, or like, you fumble and give the ball back to them, right? So like that's why the safe thing to do is to do nothing. So I haven't seen a direct interview with Christopher Smith, but what I have seen is some of the stuff that Kirby said, and Kirby he talked through it a little bit and said he didn't say like he said something along the lines of like this is what he would have been thinking or something. And so basically, the gist I got was Smith was he was basically like assessing the situation, right? Because you can see, I mean, he's kind of standing over there for a little bit while
like, do I have blockers? Do I have blockers?
Yeah, and basically, it sounds like what they tell them is like, don't pick it up unless you can house it, like that you can score. It's kind of like what they say. So someone made it sound like he was actually like looking to the sideline and like got a signal to pick it up, but like I started reading something like that, but I don't think that's right. And Kirby didn't say that happened either. So because I think he was just assessing the situation.
The way that it looked, like obviously we were watching it on TV, so I flipped myself around. He was looking to his right, and that's the LSU sideline. I believe that to his left was the Georgia sideline, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Because I think that his eyes were looking towards where the play had happened. Like they had kicked the field goal on the left hash, and like, right? Or am I misremembering?
They were on the left hash, I think, kind of kicking towards the right. That sounds right.
Yeah, like they were on the left side of the field, so it would be his right at that point. So I believe that he was looking towards them, trying to see like where everybody was.
Oh, right.
As soon as he picked up the ball, he just started darting down the field because he knew that he had 3 or 4 guys. He's like, it was almost like he was looking for numbers, and he realized that he had numbers and then took off.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's basically what it was. A heck of just a heads up play by Christopher Smith, super senior, right? I mean, he's
super senior. Yeah, you wonder like what Malachi, because I think wasn't there's some, I can't remember who all was around him.
At the end, it was Lassiter and
Lassiter,
Starks.
I know. Yeah,
Lassiter and Starks.
I think it was Starks. Starks was doing the Peter, like what
that was Munden
or whatever.
Munden was saying,
Munden?
yeah, Munden was right by him. So Munden was like in front of him, like looking towards the end zone, like where LSU was kicking toward.
He was the one that was saying
he was the one, giving the shift. But then like you can see like when I don't know if they were saying things to each other or if it was just like a look in the eyes kind of thing. Because at one point Munden like turns around and I was like, okay, this is on. And then he immediately goes and walks. And the funny thing is like right at the beginning, Christopher Smith runs by and it's like Robert Beal and somebody else are like high-fiving each other. Like they're like celebrating.
Exactly.
And Christopher Smith just flies by him.
He's like, I'm sorry, but I'm a head out.
Oh man, it was awesome. I like, but like, what
they
I mean,
too.
I don't know. It's a crazy game. What's that?
They did too. The LSU guys didn't do anything either. I think they were looking like, what is this? What is going on? It's like it's almost like that trick play that you see on YouTube where the on youth football or whatever, where they're like they hike the ball and the quarterback goes, oh, it's the wrong ball, and then he goes over and walks to the sideline and then takes off running. That's the kind of, and everybody's looking around like, what just happened?
Right. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, there was none of them in frame. There was a convoy with no LSU players in the camera frame.
And I love that Brad Nessler was like, if this stands, it's going to be a touchdown.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's where I was like, oh, come on. Like, don't, because I didn't hear a whistle.
I didn't hear a whistle.
I was like, so, I mean, obviously there wasn't, but I was trying to, like, when he said that, I was trying to think like, well, why would it not stand?
It sounded like that they pretty much like he picked it up at the right moment, because otherwise they sounded like that a few seconds later, if he'd have waited a few seconds later, they probably would have whistled it dead.
Yeah, they would have. I think once the ball like basically comes to rest, like, so it was like still wobbling and he picked it up on like, it was about to stop wobbling basically when he picked it up. So, but yeah, I don't know. That was just like, what a crazy play. And then, but then like right after that, they marched right back down and score, right, to tie it up. And I gotta say, like Jaden Daniels, he's good, man. Like he's good. In that, the touchdown, I guess March, maybe that's not totally right, but it was fast. Like that was it was like a 50-yard touchdown pass, I think, to Butte. Which I don't know if you noticed. Kudos to the CBS broadcast production crew, because they played Shake Your Booty as they went to the commercial break after Booty scored there, or Butte. I'm not exactly sure, but I thought that was funny. But I digress. Um, I
Yeah,
mean,
that
he was so open, dude.
so that Butte call was Butte call. That's funny. Um, the that call was really frustrating, and as that was actually kind of like a shot across the bow for the entire secondary
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
the entirety of the day for the most part. And I guess that, like, I'll say that for the most part because that play happened, and then after that, like, yeah, they got little. It was very much bend don't break, and before you
yeah.
knew it, it's 35-10.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. It's like after that play, I feel like our defense actually did shut them down, and then we just
We
had
did.
this like flurry of points. I mean, it went from 7-7 to 35-7 before they scored again. So I mean, it was just like a flurry. But like a lot of crazy stuff happened in that span as well, right? So you had the tip drill interception. So like not only do we have a field goal block that gets picked up and run back when no one was even paying attention for touchdown, then you get the interception where I mean, live action. I was with, with the broadcast crew, with Brad and Gary. Like, I thought it hit the ground.
I thought it hit the ground too.
Yeah.
I was
So,
like, I was like, oh man, that would be awesome if he actually did catch it.
right. So we like to pick on the refs. So I will say that it's a good job by them of not blowing the whistle. I don't know if they specifically saw it hit the guy's helmet or anything, but so that was good. But I mean, that happens, and then what I love, because I love it when an offensive coordinator does this. That play happens, we get the pick, and then Monken immediately takes a shot. One play drive, touchdown to Led McConkey.
Yeah, to the jugular.
Yeah, and that was a nice pass by Stetson. I thought that he's like fit it into window like between three different defenders. Which I gotta say, man, like Stetson. I mean, especially the first half, like we didn't throw a whole lot in the second half, but I mean, he was on, and I feel like I don't know, maybe there is something to be said about that whole what I was saying in the previews. Stetson indoors, he was on the money.
Yeah, he had himself a pretty decent day, right?
Yeah,
And it was an MVP day.
it was. Yep, yet another MVP day. 23 of 29, 274 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. So heck of a day.
Yes. I was sorry, I was just looking at something. So we were talking.
Well, I had one more thing while you're looking. I had one more thing that happened in that flurry in the first half of all those points, and I'm going to
Okay,
refer to it as the Jalen Carter circle of life play.
the
When he,
Jalen Carter circle of life. That was before halftime, right?
yeah, it was in the first half. Yeah, it was during that
Yeah,
28 straight points scored by Georgia span.
correct. Okay. So here's a couple of things that I'll say about the first half in general.
Mhm.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't have the scoring drives, but the LSU, like, we had a couple, like, we punted, they punted, and then
Mhm.
we had they had a pretty decent drive, right?
Yeah, so we started the game. They get like one first down, then punt. We go 3 and out, punt. Then they drive the field, but then we
Drive
block
the
the field
field,
goal
yeah,
and run it back for a touchdown, right? Then we
right,
kick off. Then they have the Butte, the touchdown or booty, I don't even whatever. Number 11. They get the touchdown, that 50-yard touchdown pass to tie it at 7-7. And then that's when we rattle off 28 straight points.
okay. So that's the math between how we get to 7-7 is kind of what I was looking for. 14-7, 14-7. Yeah. So what I was kind of getting at was, like, for a minute there, like when we first started the game, it felt like the our defense was on the field awful lot, like
Yeah.
right off the bat. Like
Yes.
they had that long scoring drive or whatever. And
Well, they
then
basically had to face 2 back-to-back drives because like
right,
that's what happens when you block a field, the block the field goal block. Yeah.
exactly. So that's something to watch, because that kind of happened at in the SEC championship last year with you remember, like, how everybody kind of looked like they were just gassed and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just something that I feel like that I'm wondering if, as we go into this this holiday time period, they're going to use some of the lessons that they learned from the last go around. Because you remember like Jordan Davis and those guys, like, I've got to go run. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I don't know. That's just something that I'm thinking. Like as you look to the second half, a lot of things changed. A lot of things changed. Like obviously, we started rotating in more and more personnel. Jalen Carter started coming out. I was a
Mhm.
little frustrated that Stetson Bennett was in as long as he was.
Mhm.
Um,
The whole game.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like he was in there the whole game. Like of all the players to keep, protected, I feel like that he would probably be the number one, maybe number two if you're talking about Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington. Like I don't know, interchangeably. I don't know who's the most MVP of this, but obviously Stetson.
Yeah.
Um,
But I
but
mean, it's because they were scoring, right? Like, so basically, because what we ended up doing, like at least as far as like scoring going back and forth, like even in the second half, the only time LSU scored points back to back without Georgia scoring in between was when they kicked a field goal at the end of the first half, and then when they scored a touchdown to start the second half. After what did we do? Was that when we turned the ball over? I haven't rewatched the whole game, but I know they scored the first points of the second half. We got the ball to start the second half, but they were the first, they scored first in the second half. So that was the only time that they scored like back to back. And then from then on, we just matched every time they scored, then we would score. Like we matched it every time, before they scored again. So I think that's why Stetson didn't come out to me. We couldn't, they kept scoring in the second half. So
because they kept scoring.
they kept scoring.
Yeah, I didn't they got that field goal because they got that extra field goal right before halftime
They
because
had a
of
field goal
some.
right in a really fast drive. Like they got
Yeah.
that ball with not much time left and got down and got that field goal. So yeah.
Oh, so we fumbled it. We fumbled it to start the second half too.
Yes, we on our opening possession, that was the fumble where like, and that was kind of a weird play where I felt like Kendall Milton it was like it took him a second to realize that there was a fumble. Like when it was like he was like looking at the ball, then he started to run upfield and then he turned around to go get it. So that was kind
Well,
of a
I
calamity.
imagine what he probably thought was that Stetson had pulled it, and
Yeah.
maybe he was like that kind of felt weird. Maybe he didn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was weird. I'll say this though, like sticking with the first half, I'll say that I felt like we did open up the playbook more. And I think the key thing there that I'm going to say is the red zone woes went away. Like we kept having those, like we kept joking the tech game, right? Like the identity plays going for it, like the fourth and whatever's, or, goal when like our problem has been when we get like goal to go, we just run it up the middle and then we kick a field goal,
Right.
and like that didn't happen in this game. We scored a touchdown every time we got into the red zone in this game. So that was awesome to see. And we saw it in various ways. We saw like a rollout touchdown pass to Brock Bowers on the right. We saw the rollout touchdown pass to Dylan Bell. So we weren't just running up the middle. Like we would run it up the middle and they'd stuff it. I was like, okay, well now we're going to pass it. We're going to score, so that was refreshing to see, to know that we can do that we can score in the red
That
zone
was
and not
nice.
just have all these field goals.
Agreed. I think Dustin from Field Street probably feels good about it. There was we weren't just run pass
Yeah.
and then just keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah. Seriously. But yes, I mean, I guess that was pretty much it. Like for the first half, I mean, great to see a touchdown pass to Darnell Washington. It was good to see the Big O get involved there. But I feel like second half, like I said, like in the moment yesterday, I was getting kind of frustrated. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, we basically we kind of held them at arm's length, right? Like we kept matching their scores.
Right. Before we jump into the second half, I want to point out something for literally everybody. And I was wanting to look at this as well because, as you know, Jim, I'm a huge fan of the ESPN Gamecast.
Yes.
The win probability.
Mm-hmm.
Dear fan, if you would like to look at at an absolute like bloodbath of what this game actually was from a probability standpoint, the game is effectively over at 21-7, where we are we're not even like halfway through we're not even halfway through the second quarter and the game is effectively over with 14:30 in the second quarter. We had a 93% probability winning.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think I was looking at that beforehand too. Thanks for bringing it back up. Because like I think the lowest, like our lowest probability was actually when it was at 0-0, like early. I think it was like when they were like when they got to like first and goal or whatever, maybe in that drive. Right before that, we had like a 68% chance of winning the game. That was the lowest it ever got. And that
Yeah.
was when LSU had the ball like in our territory on that drive that eventually we blocked the field goal. And then
Right.
from there on, it just kind of plummeted or whatever, or skyrocketed to our
Yep. Yep.
probability, and then it never changed at all.
You can see the jump on it because you know when we got the sack our let's see it was like 70% win probability
Mm-hmm.
when Jaden Daniels was like driving or whatever,
Yeah.
and then we got to the point where he got sacked, and that's where the
Mm.
drop off started. And then
Yeah.
as soon as we blocked the field goal, it jumps up to 87.6%
Yeah.
when we score the touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, that's the thing is it's like, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, we dominated. Like something Kim and I were talking about after the game, because like we were just, it was just weird. Like we're not used to getting scored on like that. Right. Like
I agree.
we're not used to giving up 30 points. So it was a weird feeling. And like we were having the conversation of like it's just like weird. Like we won by 20 points, right? Like we covered the spread. Like you don't probably shouldn't be upset about anything, but it's like, would you have felt better if if it was a 28-7 win instead of 50-30, or like something like that?
Yes.
I know. And I would too.
Yes.
I would too. I would too. But here's what I'm going to say that because I'm trying to like be honest, and I'm trying to be
Talk me off the ledge, Jim.
I'm
Talk me
trying
off
to
the
not be
ledge.
hypocritical, because here's what I generally say is the folks that want to see quote modern football and want to see us score some points and do the offense thing, as Tony says sometimes. Right. Like people that want to see that. And then I get frustrated with them when we win 28-7 and they get mad and it's like, well, why couldn't we open up the offense? Why couldn't we do these things? And then I get frustrated with folks who say that because I feel like they're saying, well, we didn't win the way I wanted to win, but we still won and we still covered. And so that I'm trying to be the same way. They're like, does it really matter? Like we won by 20 points. The game was effectively over at halftime. They never really challenged us in the second half. And it is what it is. I mean, we matched them. Like people are always like, oh, well, Georgia, like the knock on us was always like, oh, well, this is a Georgia offense. And, they can't go blow for blow and they can't extend leads and those kinds of things. And we proved yesterday that, yes, we can.
Yeah, we can.
So.
And it also proves that Georgia still struggles with the backup quarterback. But I digress.
I did have that jotted down as something to talk about. I'll say, man, Nussmeier looked really good. I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't know like how much what Jaden Daniels has left eligibility wise. But if he's coming back, they're going to have some healthy quarterback competition in the fall. I would assume Nussmeier looked pretty good.
For some reason, I feel like that Lamar and those guys said that he had another year left, but whoever Ryan Clark, I think it was. That they interviewed. I think that he said that because he was an LSU guy. I think that he said that they had another year left. But I'm super glad that they finally pulled the trigger on getting him out of there because I mean you want to talk about limping like that he was or being hobbled like we played Tua in the past when he had a similar kind of thing going on, and they finally had to pull him and put in Jalen Hurts, which good gracious, it's bad memories.
You just went back to the backup quarterback thing again, John. Let's stay away from that.
I did. I mean, just stay away from the backup quarterback. But I feel like that he was worse than Tua was, like almost to the point where it was feeling like intellectually egregious that he was being asked to go back out there and take another snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and he was like, on the circle of life play where Jalen Carter just picked him up in the air and then like set him back down. Like he was limping really bad after that play, and like I remember the broadcast, like they were actually talking about it because they're like, well, it's not like he slammed him down. That's why he picked him up in the air. He was being nice to him.
Right.
But he was really hobbling after that. And he didn't last much longer. I think he played one more series basically where they got the field goal and then he was done for the night.
I think that did one of the guys on the broadcast, was it Nestler or Gary, say that he was smiling when he picked him up? I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's grimacing in absolute excruciating pain
That's a good
because
point.
his ankle is literally trashed right now.
Yeah, I thought he was smiling too, like full speed, but I think you're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah.
I did. I guess a couple because I don't know how much we even really need to go into the second half, but a few things, I guess. This
Well,
isn't not even really second half. Oh,
you,
good.
you go through your quick hits and then I'll go my quick
Okay.
hits.
Like on the injury front, looks like hopefully Ladd will be okay. If he went down on that deep ball or catch and run, I guess. So hopefully Ladd is okay. The other thing I wanted to point out though was like when McClendon went down and Mims came in, which again it sounds like McClendon's going to be okay. But just to call that out, right? Because like last year, right in the spring, Mims was in the transfer portal and went around and shopped around. Like it's a pretty big moment looking back, right? To get Mims back, have him there, and plug him in when McClendon went down and have minimal drop off. So that was just a huge thing. Just thinking back to that. But yeah, I guess like I want to talk about Kendall Milton. I mean, leading rusher in this game had I mean, as far as like rushing totals, rushing yards in SEC championship game history, I think that was like a top 15 or something like that performance all time. We've talked about like him starting to look kind of like what he looks like as a freshman, kind of getting back to his old self. I think it's pretty safe to say that he was being bothered by his injuries earlier in the season. I don't know, just a good moment, feel good moment for him. 8 carries, 113 yards. Guy averaged 14.1 yards a carry. So I don't know. I guess I'll say again, welcome back, Kendall Milton.
Yeah. Seriously, I mean, he looked good. He looked good.
Yeah, he looked good.
He's looked good the last few weeks.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
I would say that. Let's see. Some of the other. Were you done with your?
I mean, I had some other macro things like because I do at some point I want to just talk about Stetson a bit, but if you had anything else specific on the game, go for it.
I don't know. Just like a overall kind of talking about the box score. You know, what makes you nervous? Well, you know, is scoring 30 points on the backups? You know, is not super concerning. Scoring that many points and then, you know, having percentage of the starters in, because I feel like that the starters were still in at certain points, but like, yeah, it never felt like that they were like, all right, everybody out, y'all are all coming in, and because they're still throwing bombs against Keely Ringo, which I feel like that I was talking to some one of the families for Carter's soccer team. Shout out to the Gunn family, great family. They're LSU fans, and they're always been pretty cool when we talk football. I had told him that Coach O was going to get fired before the season, and he did not think that was accurate, and we never talked about that one. But yeah, so we were talking, and they were saying that I was like, you know, you guys were probably asking yourselves why y'all didn't start Nussmeier or whatever, and apparently. Like they were like, well, you know, yeah, he did good, but like that was the first time that he had ever looked good, if that makes sense, because they were not super like thrilled about him long term, if that makes sense. Could have been the benefit of, you know, he just looked better because Georgia had already had the game won and nobody was really playing, and all we had to do was keep the game in front of us. All those things. But all that said, like you look at their box score, 502 yards of passing is not a warm, fuzzy feeling for the defense in general. Because everything just jumps out at the page with that statistic.
Especially not knowing when you take into account who our next opponent is and who their quarterback is. So in Ohio State and CJ Stroud. So I agree. I mean, I think that's the concern. And I mean, between the two guys, right? So because they both basically played a half. So you had Jaden Daniels had 208 yards passing in the first half, and then Garrett Nussmeier had 294 yards passing in the second half. So I mean, yeah, it's not good. That's not good. But again, I don't really know what to make of it. I think I think they lost their focus, their edge after we already talked about the fact that the game was over at halftime, right?
Right.
So I don't know. Like I just don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I think it definitely gives Kirby plenty of things to talk about, though, right? Uh, you get that kind of coach's game where you win, you were never in danger, but you got plenty of things that you can go back to the team and coach them up on, right? So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to get too bent out of shape about it. Because you're at the point now where, now we are truly at the moment where style points don't matter at all. It truly is survive in advance. You just got to win your games. And we're over the dog and pony show. The style points is done at this point of the season, right? Like you don't have to worry about that at all. So
agreed. Just win, baby. Just win.
Exactly. Let's do a couple things.
Do we want to discuss the doink?
The jackpot field goal?
The jackpot doink, yeah.
Yeah,
we had hyped up how accurate he had been.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That stunk. It was close too. Like it was there. Like it looked. It ended up being closer. Like because I thought he had missed it pretty bad, and then when it cut in, I was like, oh man, he might actually make this, and then obviously didn't. So yeah. I mean, I feel like he's proven just over the course of the season, he's been so good. I'm not gonna concern myself with that, but yeah, he has been on a tear. He has been on a tear. No, I was gonna say on the Stetson front. So we hit his stat line. We had like multiple gifable moments from him in this game.
A lot of them.
Again, the dropping of the bomb, I think, was the favorite. That was when once again the podcast account starts getting blown up with people asking for gift requests. Always know something funny has happened. So that was great to see. But at this point, I'm not saying that he should 100% win the Heisman, but when you've got Caleb Williams in US, I think he got hurt or whatever in that game, but he played through the whole game. They lose. And also, if you look at the definition of what they're looking for in the Heisman Trophy winner, considering what he wrote on his fingernails, that I'm not going to say, so I don't have to bleep out again for sorry, Carter. But I don't know. To me, maybe I'm being an old guy here, but I thought that was kind of lame personally. But I don't feel like that embodies what you're trying to go for with the Heisman personally. But he didn't have a great game there. Stroud, Ohio State lost. They lost in their biggest moment. Hendon Hooker didn't get to finish the season, is injured, and they had multiple losses there. I don't know, man. I feel like he should at least go to New York as one of the top 4 guys personally, but we'll see.
I agree, man. Stetson Bennett, the fourth for Heisman.
I will say it is it's pretty awesome that the narrative on Stetson has changed from he stinks to now, oh well, he's 25 years old. He's older than everyone. He should be that good. I don't know. I find that pretty funny. I saw a lot of that on Twitter yesterday. It's the kind of thing you love to see because now you're not seeing that. Oh well, he's not good stuff anymore.
Did they give him his own walker when he comes home with the SEC title?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, dude, what a legend. What a legend at this point. National champion. All he did was follow that up with by the way, the first ever 13-0. First time Georgia has ever made it to 13-0. This has never happened before. Quite an encore for the mailman. Or is it the milkman? I still say the mailman.
I still say the mailman as well. He'll always be the mailman, and he will always have an SEC championship ring to add to any of the descriptors.
The only other thing I had jotted down from the game was shout out to Aaron King, who had asked us, would AD Mitchell make an impact in this game? And we were basically like, I don't see how that could happen. And then he goes out there and throws a 2-point conversion on an end around. That was pretty sweet. So,
okay. So since you brought it up, let's go ahead and break down the utilization and the whole situation with AD Mitchell. I have something to get off my chest about this whole thing. I texted it to you guys. I feel that UGA has mishandled his situation just overall.
Mm-hmm.
I am frustrated that I'm not necessarily frustrated that they brought him back, because after they brought him out, trotted him out there for the what was it? There's the Vanderbilt game that he re-injured it.
It was Auburn.
Auburn. Okay. So when they trotted him out to the Auburn game to re-injure it, it seemed unnecessary at the time, because I don't feel like that we necessarily needed him. When we need him is like the right nows of the world. The right now is when we kind of need him to be 100% for the playoff, right?
Yep.
To bring him back in the SEC championship game, which I don't even know when he went in, but I feel like that we already had the game pretty much won when he came in, right?
I don't know, man. He was in pretty early, actually. So so the 2-point conversion, yes, because that was to get to 50. Like, but that was kind of coming back in.
So that's all right. So let's break it into two segments. When you have a theory that he hurt himself, right? I see that as well.
Which we haven't talked about that. Let me just say really quick what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because and I saw this was like a live watching the game, something that I said to my wife. So I said to Kim, like sitting there watching the game, was like when they were all celebrating that AD looked like he kind of stumbled funny. And then I didn't hear anyone else say anything about it. Like I felt like it was just me. Broadcast didn't say anything. I didn't see anything on Twitter. So I kind of let it go. But then it got brought up today by someone else that they noticed it. I was like, okay. And then like I looked at the school posted a video of the 2-point conversion from the Twitter account. And I looked at that and kind of slowed it down. And I still see what I saw yesterday. Who knows? Maybe it's nothing. And still I haven't seen anyone say anything about it. So just hoping that he didn't injure himself celebrating. So that's what you're talking about.
We're hopeful that Kirby is not going to be hopeful about AD Mitchell this week.
Right. Yeah, seriously. So yeah. But your point is basically not so much like, because like, we tried to throw a touchdown pass to him in the first half. And he did like his kind of also like now like signature route where he like kind of fakes a post and then goes out to the front pylon. He scored on that same route against Auburn, like when he was a freshman. So it's kind of that route. He ran that route, but he slipped and fell. So you're not so much talking about that. You're talking about the fact that we brought him back in up 48-30 or whatever. When we're throwing the.
I am actually talking about I'm talking about both of them. So
okay,
the route that we asked him to do on his first play back was a 90-degree hard cut on the hurt ankle.
Right.
Seems like a bad idea, guys. Could we maybe just like give him a quick out or, let him run deep and catch it instead of where he doesn't have to like cut so drastically? I don't know. To me, it was so.
Here's my thing. This is where I'm trying to talk you off on the ledge on all this stuff too. Like that's the first play I'd mentioned. Like he did run a go route at some point. I can't remember if it was before or after. Like I said, I haven't like rewatched the whole game in detail. But the other thing is too, like at some point you're cleared, and like you can't, like at some point you just gotta let him play.
But there's also you got at some point you're cleared and you're cleared. But like, would you say that Jaden Daniels should have been cleared? Like, no. I don't. That's different. Think he should have been cleared, sir.
That's the other team, John. That's the other team.
Okay.
No, I know.
You're talking Ron Corson versus someone else's.
Right? Yeah, they don't have Ron Corson.
Right.
Oh man. Yeah, but I don't know.
So there's that. The lad obviously went down. So these are things. You had Warren McClendon went down. Xavier Trush, which I saw on the Dog Central thread. Someone was talking about it, but you said that you didn't notice it. I thought that I had remembered it, but I think I was remembering Warren Erickson. But or wait, no, not Warren Erickson, McClendon, right?
Yeah, McClendon. Yeah,
McClendon. Yeah. I was remembering that. I don't think I remember anybody coming out in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I didn't remember that either. So I'll have to go back and look for that. I didn't see that.
Not saying it didn't happen. I mean, all of those things are probably part of the reason why the things kind of transpired the way that they transpired. Maybe we weren't being overly aggressive. I've heard some folks talking about, we played softer in the second half, which I guess makes sense when you're up so large.
It's it's the defensive long con. We've introduced the long con on defense this game, John.
Yeah, exactly. They need someone to have an edge on the next game. Like, look, you guys aren't that great. Like, look at you.
Exactly.
Look at that piss poor second half performance.
Amazing.
That's I think that's all of the items that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would add that kind of bothered me was the fact that, and I have to give credit to to Trigger Trey, TT7. He was texting about this. Keely Ringo is supposedly our CB1, right?
Yeah.
He was targeted for like what, 9 plays and 130 something yards passing.
Yep. I think if you look at the targets on Lassiter, I think Lassiter is cornerback one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I don't know what to say other than he's just got to clean it up. I mean, we've talked about it before, right? Like he's been kind of boomer bust. He did like he just didn't have that boom play here. Although he did have some pass breakups. He had a nice one in the end zone actually that was pretty close, and he was able to tip it away from the defender. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the 500 yards pass was pretty crazy. But
So the guys Lamar and George, 100 Stanford, they had that guy Ryan Clark on, and
mm,
I was listening to that, and he made a comment, and I was like, you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense. I can't remember. I think it was Tyson Campbell that he was comparing Ringo to.
yep.
Like, he's got a lot of speed, a lot of size, but like the ball skills are not there. And I that jives. So, maybe he's got maybe he's got the ability to turn his career around, like, and become that dominant cornerback. But
Well,
like,
hold on now, John. I do
what?
remember you have said on this podcast many times that Keely Ringo is the island where wide receivers go to die on.
I have. He was. I don't know what happened. Like,
Yeah.
the only thing that I can figure is that teams have figured out what seems to be the only way that you can gain chunk yard plays against this defense, and that is to throw it deep with Keely Ringo. You'll either get a big catch or you get a pass interference, which really does feel like what happens all the time. Do
Mhm.
you disagree with that assessment over the last 3 or 4 games?
I mean, I do in this one because it wasn't like 500. Keely Ringo did not give up 500 yards, so it wasn't all him.
Well, he
And
gave up 25% of it.
I'm just saying, but you're saying that's the only thing. It is not the only thing. There are other things that can be done. So yes, I am disagreeing. I'm not saying that he's definitely not playing to the level he did last year. I also think like, I mean, so I think the one difference is like who is opposite of him. And that's what I was thinking, at least until now that we're seeing the whole like Lassiter is cornerback one now. Maybe I don't know, just based on targets and everything. But we don't have Darion Kendrick on the other side, who was a known commodity. And I think I don't know, like I think in general Kendrick seemed to kind of be undervalued last year. But I think like we talked about him a lot. I know he was like your guy of like you mentioned, like if you could bring one guy back for the season that was gone, I think he was one of your guys that you mentioned. So I don't know. I mean, that is definitely something that changed. Scene isn't back there anymore either, but Starks is obviously balling out. Although I think that first touchdown might have been on him, or at least as far as like the guy getting open. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, there was a couple of plays like that. And it's one of those things where it's like, we talked about this last year. Like, do you take the entire body of work, or do you think that this one game is indicative of how they're going to play in the semifinal and and potentially the championship game?
I don't think it's
There,
indicative. The defense,
yeah. Well, no,
yeah,
I'm saying like letting guys get wide open.
right, right.
There were some situations where bad tackling was in play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we there was a couple of plays early, and I think I had mentioned this to you, like, that we had some even more opportunities to ice them out in the first quarter on some of their drives where we could have sacked Daniels at multiple junctures, and he just kind of slipped away or whatever.
Well,
I
yeah,
just
I mean, even with Nussmeyer, that one there was one of those touchdown passes that Nussmeyer threw. Like, I guess you could say it was on Ringo, but at the same time, you could say, well, he had all day because we had him sacked, and he spun out of a sack, and then he turned around and just whipped the ball into the end zone. Like, it's hard to cover for that long. So
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that's definitely another recipe for success against this defense is to just run around backyard football style and throw it deep to whoever was on Keely Ringo.
but let me remind you, John, this is all this boils down to. Like, I feel like this is a lot of a nothing burger, honestly. It's the second half. At
It's the second
halftime,
half.
it was, I mean, so we're talking 35 to, it was, so first half, 35-10. And again, 3 points right before halftime, right? 35-10. And then second half, 20-15 LSU. So they scored 5 more points than we did in the second half. And it was 35-10 and a half. Like, I mean, it just, I feel like it was we lost focus. We lost the drive defensively, I guess, but we went blow for blow with them on offense. When, as they started to pick up the scoring, we matched it. Right. I mean, they scored what, 5 more points than us in the second half. But again, like I said, they never scored without us scoring in between, other than the end of the first half and the start of the second half. So I just feel like it's a nothing burger. Like, it doesn't really concern me in the grand scheme of things. So
I was hoping that they were chasing the SEC championship record for points scored. I was like, yes. As soon as I saw that statistic, I was like, oh, inject it into my veins, please.
Yeah, seriously, that would have been nice.
That's all I need. That's all I need is Todd Monken just dropping his nuts out there on top of Mercedes-Benz Stadium like Darnell Washington.
Amazing. All right, why don't we take a quick moment to remind everyone that season 3 of My God, a Podcast is presented by Oxia Time. Oxia Time is a custom watch company. If you gotta go check out their 2021 Georgia College Football Playoff National Champions collection. Also, we've talked about the multiple variations of the watch they've got. They've got the stainless steel, they've got the blackout, added the ladies, and now they actually do have watches for all 4 college football playoff participants this year. So they have it available now. You can go check it out. It's got the 2023 CFP logo. That's the logo for the entire playoff. You can get that with the Georgia Power G as well. And they've got them for all 4 schools. So if you want to go check that out, head on over to oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. And like we've mentioned in the last couple of episodes, OxyTime is also partnering with Bulldogs battling breast cancer right now. You can use the code BBBC10 to get 10% off of any of those timepieces. All right, JP, let's hit the quick Coach Trill picks update. So I think you extended your lead by 1 pick. Not a good week for us. You went 4-4. I went 3-5. You've got the overall lead at 67-37. I trail you 61-43. So we're getting into crunch time. I'm gonna have to do something drastic or something. I don't know.
We're getting into bend but don't break situation.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to keep chopping, but it has not been successful thus far.
I'm on the Kirby death march.
Yeah. Let's see. So a couple of things. So one quick programming note, like this will be the only episode this week. We don't have a game to preview. So we'll take a bit of a break before we preview the Peach Bowl matchup against Ohio State. I don't know. We may do like an off-season episode in between. I think we did that last year, so we'll kind of play it by ear. But we'll tweet out and solicit questions like we always do the next time we record. So, but just heads up for this week, this will be the only episode for this week. So, having said that, I did want to just talk a little bit about the CFP. I guess before I get into it so much, how great was it to see like Nick Saban on a Zoom call, like politicking for Alabama to be in, and then them not to get in? Like that was yummy.
Oh my gosh, I was text messaging you guys when that was on. I was like, is everybody watching this? Like this is amazing. Like literally, Nick Saban is begging to be let into the club.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh man, like a scorned woman that's just been turned away, or a scorned guy at the club that's just trying to get in with all of his friends. Just nope, you can't go.
Oh man, it was yummy. I'm going to use his own word against him. It was yummy.
And the best part about it was he was at a recruiting situation. I don't know if it was like with recruits or donors or whatever. But he had to peel away like, hey guys, sorry, I got to go beg to get let into this tournament.
I love that his logic was like Vegas and like point spreads and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what is
Like
happening right now?
who are you?
Yeah, it was so weird. I don't know. And I saw I saw on Twitter today someone was like defending it because I think like a Georgia fan was making fun of it. And then Bama fan was like, well, Kirby did this in 2018, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you guys all made fun of it. Like, I don't know. I like the whole like can't have it both ways stuff just cracks me up. So whatever. But so do you think they got it right? So you had, we
Absolutely. The
okay.
only thing.
What about the seeding? Do you think the seeding
the,
is right?
The only thing that I think that they could have done is drop TCU. But if you drop TCU, you're rewarding Ohio State, which doesn't really change a whole lot. I will say that I do think that Michigan has the easier draw.
Yes,
if I'm being honest.
I agree. That's my only quote unquote, I guess, issue. I would say I think it's hard to do that because it's the whole like. To me, the problem is that they're totally like making it up as they go along. Like they have their guidelines or whatever, and they say what they're doing. But like when they're saying things like, "Oh, we didn't even talk about the fact that Michigan, Ohio State, if they were 2-3, would have been a rematch." Like I do not believe whatsoever that wasn't discussed. Like that was 100% discussed. Like there's no way they didn't talk about that. But it's all these like the criteria, right? It's the whole like best 4 teams versus most deserving. And they say it's supposed to be best 4, and it's supposed to be based on like how good they are or whatever, and they're seeding them that way. Because if you're seeding them that way, then TCU should be 4. Because like Ohio State would definitely be favored over TCU. Although now I just did the point spread thing like Nick Saban did, so sorry. But I agree. I think that's the only downside is that we as a number 1 seed get the tougher semifinal matchup. But I think it's hard. I mean it's hard to. There's so many things. I don't like the format anyways, like with the way they do it, with the whole like Ohio State gets to sit at home and then they make the playoff. You're penalizing USC for playing the extra game, all that kind of fun stuff. And then same thing, like you're going to penalize TCU and drop them when they had to play, they played one more game than Ohio State. So I don't have a problem with it, but I do agree that Michigan gets the easier semifinal, but it kind of is what it is.
I guess the only thing that I would say is that, kind of riffing off of the statements that you were just making makes sense. If you were to add like Tennessee into this equation, I feel like that. I do feel like that on the surface, like that would have made more sense as having Tennessee at number 4.
Than TCU or than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, had Tennessee not, like, it just goes back to like, man, had they just not had laid an egg against South Carolina, like, holy cow, man,
dude.
I think they would have been a lock for number 4.
Yeah, if Tennessee's only loss was to us, I think they're in. I do think that's true. I also think Clemson would have been in if they hadn't lost to South Carolina as ACC champions because they just won the ACC championship. Like South Carolina knocked 2 teams out of the playoff in back-to-back weeks.
It's Gaffney, South Carolina ruins everything, Jim.
Oh man!
Even though it's nowhere near Columbia, but
that's okay. That's okay. It still makes.
I blame Gaffney, South Carolina, for all this.
Oh man!
This chaos was birthed out of the interstate of Gaffney, South Carolina.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it was chaos. We got chaos this weekend. We both picked USC to beat Utah, but man, that fell apart. We had folks were like tweeting about USC offense at halftime and everything, and then Lincoln Riley does what Lincoln Riley does, I guess. Kind of fell apart there in the second half. So, dude,
that might have been the softest team that I've ever seen. Like they couldn't tackle anybody.
That's what my disappointment was, that they lost because now we don't get to play them. I would have loved to have them in the semifinal. That would have been amazing.
I agree because we never play.
Right. Yeah, seriously.
On the flip side of that, now we get Ohio State, which we also never play and is frankly has been hiding from us because they canceled our game, right?
True.
Now you got to play us, mofos.
True. My last nugget on the CFP. This is interesting. This is the first college football playoff that has neither Alabama nor Clemson. At least one of those schools has been in every college football playoff since it started. This is the first time that neither have made it. So interesting. Thought that was an interesting nugget.
What I hear you saying is that there's a new sheriff in town.
I like that. I like that.
And his name is Kirby Smart.
Love it. Love it. I think we have to end on that, John.
we probably could. We probably could. I don't
I mean, like
know.
I said, man,
I don't know that I have. I don't know that I have a whole. I don't know that I have a whole lot on this.
I don't either. Like I said, I mean, it's we like I said earlier, right? First ever 13-0 Georgia team. If we think back to preseason, right? Like when we were looking at the schedule, I think we looked at the schedule and we're like, where's the loss? Right? Like I think we thought we'd go 12-0. But thinking that and saying it and doing it is a completely different thing. For this team to do this and they ended up with tougher opponents in spots than what we thought, right? Like no one knew Tennessee was going to be what Tennessee ended up being. Look at that schedule preseason, and to do that with all the players that went and left the NFL draft. I mean, Kirby's got to be SEC Coach of the Year. To me, I don't see how you could put anyone else there.
I agree. Was he even on the finalist list?
I don't know that they do that. For SEC Coach of the Year, I think they all just vote at the end. I don't know that there's so much a finalist list or anything like that. So I know like Monken is up for the whatever the award is for like best assistant. That's one of those national awards that does get the list and that kind of stuff. So
was it Broyle?
I think so. Award? Yeah, I think that sounds right. That sounds right.
Sure.
So yeah. All right, man. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up there. 13-0 SEC champions, like we talked about, right? Something that last year's team did not win the SEC championship. So, hey, you talked about it, right? Like now all these guys, they can go up and show Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and all those guys, they'll have those bragging rights.
Heck yeah, over them forever. They're gonna be able to like flash those rings. Like, hey, y'all, everybody get their SEC championship rings out. We're gonna take a picture.
That's right.
You don't have one, sorry, bud.
Exactly. It's a big deal, man. I mean, first one since 2017.
I would totally do that. I'd be like, Jordan Davis, can you take our picture with the SEC championship rings that we got?
Amazing. Love it. All right. Well, we'll stay in touch. We'll let folks know what we're going to do if we do any kind of intermediate episodes before we do the final Ohio State Peach Bowl preview. But we'll be back at least for that, if not with some additional content in between. So we'll put the word out for that.
I have some ideas.
Ooh, nice. Okay. We can talk about that in the podcast after the podcast.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, this was fun. Corn dogs, not many. Maybe a little too many. And Bulldogs a lot.
Love it.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.